I'm glad that you have joined us today. I appreciate you being here with us. I'm going to do a little bit of the housekeeping here before we get started with the presentation, just so those folks that are joining us at 12:15, don't miss any of the actual presentation. I figured I'd do the warm-up stuff ahead of time. So again, just to give you a little bit of background, I know some of you might have seen this before. Oh, no. But a little bit of background about Rutgers Cooperative Extension. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is part of the New Jersey Agricultural Experiment Station, and Rutgers is a land-grant university, which means it has cooperative extension services throughout New Jersey. And we are supported, we support the community with educational information that is scientifically research-based. And Rutgers Cooperative Extension has faculty and or staff in 21 of the 21 counties in New Jersey. And we are funded through a partnership between the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Board of County Commissioners, Rutgers, the State University, and the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture. We currently have faculty or staff in 21 of all 21 counties in New Jersey, which is good news. And we're composed of 3 departments, which include Agriculture and Natural Resources, 4-H Youth Development, and then my department, Family and Community Health Sciences, or FCHS. And FCHS is a department, we do outreach in New Jersey and beyond on topics related to nutrition, chronic disease prevention, food safety, and overall wellness. And we hope that you'll visit our websites, and our social media handles will be provided, both the website and the social media handles will be provided at the end of the presentation. They have recordings of the presentations that we do, as well as other information, articles and things, and supplemental materials that are always a great resource for you. And also we have recipes there, and you can go to our statewide website where we also have recipe videos for you. So we hope you'll join us for other activities that we're doing too, besides just the Lunch and Learn that we're doing today. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer. Its programs and materials are open to all without regard to race, color, national origin, gender, gender identity, religion or age, height, weight, disability, political beliefs, sexual orientation, marital status, family status, or veteran status. And as I've been telling you, if you've been on one of the calls so far this year, we are currently trying to get more of the input from you, which is very valuable to us. So if you take your phone out and you hold it up to the screen and you open your camera and hold it up to the QR code, it will take you to a survey, which you can open now. And then you can, at the end of the presentation, just go into your browser and take that survey. It really seriously only takes 1 or 2 minutes. And what we're doing now is, if you answer the survey and you include your email, which does not relate you to your answer, so your answers will still be totally anonymous, it'll give you the opportunity to win a prize. So we've gotten back the first batch of people, and we are having a lot more responses. So we appreciate that very, very much, because it's very helpful to us. And so if you would be so kind as to fill it out, and there's also the link there if you want to go ahead and use the link instead of the QR code, you can use that. And then I'll send it out to you afterwards as well. So if you're interested in, responding to that and entering to win a prize, then you'll be contacted. And as I've explained before, we get the evaluations back in clumps. So we'll get like 3 or 4 months at once, and then 3 or 4 months at once. We have the first batch that we're going to be pulling from shortly. And then this is for the new batch. So please, I encourage you to go ahead and do that survey at the end of the presentation. So let's talk a little bit about today's presentation, which is, kind of based on a conversation I had with my son, which I'll talk to you a little bit about at the end here. But really eating this and not that, like trying to figure out what are we to do? There's all this different information out there. So today's presentation really has 3 objectives. First, we're going to discuss the differences between accurate food advertising that provides a healthy option versus those buzzwords that we hear that offer suggestion but no real nutritional value. And a lot of times, a lot of these different topic areas are kind of the buzzwords or the food or whatever is really pushed out there on news media and social media. They get a hold of one research research study, and then everybody becomes really gun-ho about it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that type of information. We're also going to talk a little bit about foods that people that often substitute as healthy options. So I'm just going to give you a little sight into that, because today's a short version of this presentation, but we're going to look a little bit at what those substitutions might be and whether or not they're really as healthy as you might think they are. And then we're going to talk about ways to substitute things like high fat, high sugar, high sodium foods, and have a little bit better of an option with different still flavorful, different types of substitutes for those things. So we'll cover that all. So I'm going to give you the skinny on what it's all about, how to change it up, and then I'm going to also give you the information about how, Jackie, we got a bunch of unmuted. Can you mute them? I'm also going to give you the information on how to make those substitutes. Sorry, I got muted too. So let's talk a little bit about food advertising and buzzwords. And our desire to find, the next quick fix way to be healthy often allows us to fall victim to advertising and buzzwords, and words that think we're eating healthier, but we might not really be eating so healthy in reality. We're just falling prey to those sweet sounding ideas that are really too good to be true. So let's look at some common buzzwords that could be used to attract us to products under the premise of being healthier. Now, some of these buzzwords, of course, are founded and are regulated, but they may not always mean what you think they mean. So I'm going to ask you to put in the chat right now what you think organic means, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But just one word. What does organic mean? So we're gonna put that into the chat now, and we'll come back to it. So I gathered a list of different buzzwords and things that I thought might, you might be seeing as buzzwords. And there's a lot out there, and they pertain to products that we consume. Things like organic, all natural, sugar-free, no additives, probiotics, prebiotics, functional foods, pasture-raised, superfoods, gluten, GMO, grass-fed, cage-free, or free-range, made with real fruit, omega-3, whole grains, whole wheat, multigrain, high fructose corn syrup, antioxidants, BPA free or bisphenol free A, local, right? These are all words that we hear all the time, but have you ever taken a step back to see what they really mean, or consider what they really mean, or think about what they really mean to you? Because they're going to have a different meaning and a different level of importance for everyone. Some of these, again, like they might not have the understanding that you think they do, and they might just be buzzwords. And I'll give you an idea about this. My husband this morning, because he knows this stuff drives me crazy, he comes up and he says, coffee, we got to drink more coffee. They said on the news, we need to drink more coffee. Well, a lot of times that does happen because, like I said, there's a study out there. So let's take a look at again, it's a shortened version of this. I'm going to be doing it a little bit longer for Wellness Wednesday, if you want to check out a little bit more in-depth information about it. So I'm just going to pick a few of these words out from that big list I just showed you, and try to give you some information about the claims and what's governed and what is not governed. So let's see, we have a couple people put in the chat here. What'd you say? Grown without chemicals and antibiotics, somebody said, is the definition of organic. Clean, not chemically enhanced or added. Okay, and clean actually has come up as a buzzword. I saw that when I was doing my research for this. Fresh. Okay, yeah, so they're good analogies, and I think a lot of people think that about organic. So let's take a little bit closer look at that and see what we're going to come up with, not just with organic, but with other labels too. Looking at how something is prepared or made sometimes is why people look at these labels, or what attracts them to the buzzword. Some people want to eat clean, like somebody said, so that's an interesting way to try to eat too, is to be healthy and clean, which is another buzzword. But looking at how something is prepared or made, for instance, is an area where people look, and they look at all natural. And what does really all natural mean? Poison ivy is all natural, but it's not really something that we're going to ingest or we want to ingest. And when it comes to meat production, according to Michigan State University Cooperative Extension, the term natural on a meat label, as defined by USDA's FSIS, indicates that the product does not contain artificial flavors, colors, chemicals, preservatives, or other synthetic ingredients. And this, again, is all natural. And the product and the ingredients are minimally processed. And while the USDA does set the definition for meat, and the FDA sets the definition for non-animal food products, which they say is nothing artificial or synthetic, including all colored additives, regardless of source, has been included in or has been added to the food that would not normally be expected to be in that food. So therefore, food processing is the only indicator used for natural. So it's not saying that, that it's all natural, but rather they're talking about how the indicator for all natural is really how it was processed. No study suggests that a food label that has natural on it is healthier, and there's no certifying agency or inspection a manufacturer must go through to call themselves natural. So again, that all natural, when I think of all natural, I think, oh, it must be good for me because it's from nature, it's natural, it's something that would be good to put in our body. But, like I said, there is no certifying agency or inspection of a manufacturer must go through for that, to have that on their label. As I mentioned earlier, I'm just pulling out a few examples here. There's a big long list, like you saw in the beginning, of how many buzzwords could be out there. And I'm not proposing to try to do them all today, but we'll hit on a couple of them. Another one, as I mentioned, was organic. And I did ask you to put in the chat what organic meant. Some people said clean. But organic does, a lot of times people will say, well, I eat organic. I hear this often. I eat organic because it means without the use of pesticides. And that's a very common understanding or misunderstanding of what organic food is. The actual legal definition of pesticide is any substance that kills a pest. Organic farmers, if it kills a weed or it kills a pest, it's a pesticide. Organic farmers may use pesticides. However, to be certified organic, they need to be free of sewage sludge, which is a good thing, right? Radiation, genetically modified substances, and synthetic fertilizers. Organic farmers are required to be certified and do go through rigorous protocols to be deemed certified organic by the USDA in their growing and handling processes. But it does not mean without any pesticides. Further, if you see certified exempt, it means that it's a smaller farmer that's saying that they are organic, but they're exempt from having that USDA label because they're a smaller farm. So if you see that, you also might see, sometimes they'll say 90% or 75% organic. That's saying that percentage of the product has organic in it. I know I've gone to the grocery store and picked up a can of what was labeled organic tomatoes, and then there was other substances in it, but the tomatoes were actually organic. So just to give you an idea of that. The health benefits of organic foods over non-organic foods varies in studies, but organic fruits and vegetables will have less pesticide residue, according to the University of Connecticut Cooperative Extension. So there's a benefit there. But that's not to say that you should run out and buy all organic food, because again, that research is not conclusive on whether, which is better. So that it's just something to think about. Another area of interest for consumers on the watch for healthier foods is sugar-free. So sugar-free sounds like it would be devoid of sugar, right? But however, sugar-free means one serving contains less than 0.5 grams of sugar. Both natural and added sugars. So therefore, if you're getting more of the product, you may be in fact consuming sugar in a sugar-free product. So if the serving size says that it's, a half a cup and you're eating 3 cups, then take that 0.5 and take it up to that serving size. So that just gives you an example on that one. Reduced sugar means the product has at least 25% less sugar than the regular product. And that's good to know, right? If we're eating less sugar than if we had it in a regular product. However, reduced sugar might be 25% less of a super sugary product. So it might not necessarily be better if that product is already very sugary. So you might still be getting a lot of sugar, even though you think you're eating less. And no sugar means no sugar or ingredient containing sugar was added during the processing or packaging of the product. Many times, though, products that have sugar clean contents, a sugar substitute, or low calorie sweetener may have been added to that product to give it its sweetness, right? You have to get it somewhere else. So it might be something that's artificial. So you think that you're eating low sugar, but you're reading, or no sugar, but you're really eating a product that contains a added sugar by a substitute of sugar. Additionally, the product has the products that claim less sugar or no sugar doesn't really mean that it's good for you. So the product might be taking the sugar out and loading up fat, artificial sweeteners, or sodium to make up for the taste that's lost by removing that sugar. So it might not always be a better choice. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that and how to be cautious about that in a few minutes. Superfood is another word that we're hearing a lot. Like I said, clean is a new one too. Well, it's been around for a while, but clean. Superfood really has no scientific basis and no certification or regulations. If you hear oftentimes salmon or blueberries are referred to as a superfood, it's likely because of the nutritional value that they contain. So that's a good thing that, they're saying, okay, that these are superfoods. But again, there's no real certification or nobody's really giving it any qualification there. So the first time superfood was ever used in the United States was back in World War I. And it was used by a company that was marketing, again, it was marketing something. It was marketing bananas. So it marketed bananas as superfoods, and they didn't really have any nutritional science or backing behind that, but rather it was just an advertising method. And bananas, they're not bad for us, but they really weren't using any information that made it be, oh yeah, this is certified by XYZ, and that's why it's a superfood. It was just trying to get people to eat more bananas. So, it really doesn't have a lot more credibility than saying I'm a super mom, is saying that something's a superfood. So keep that in mind when you're looking. And if you are looking to find out if something's really a superfood, look at the nutritional values of it. Does it have a good amount of vitamins and minerals? Does it have, good potassium, good fiber, those type of things that you might be looking for. Food system indicators, or where food has come from, are also markers that some consumers use to determine how sustainable, fresh, or environmentally correct the food they're consuming is. So for example, often people purchase local food under the assumption that it's grown by a local farmer. And even the grocery stores in the area have picked up on that local definition, and they are trying to advertise things as being more local. Local definitions are not as close by as you might think. And in fact, there's no set length of travel for a food to be local. The United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, defines local by saying there is no predetermined distance to define what consumers consider local, but a set of number of miles from a center point or state/local boundary is often used. If you really want to know how local a product is, then you need to look at the label. If you're going for blueberries and you think you're buying local blueberries, they're going to be coming into season soon. And you want to know, okay, we live very close to Hamilton, obviously in Cape May County, so they would be considered local. If you want to know if they're from Hamilton, you're going to have to read the label and see where that grower was from, because we're able to get blueberries from all over the world. So in order to determine if they're really local in your mindset, then look at that. The other way to look, which we're really fortunate with here in New Jersey, is the Jersey Fresh logo. So in New Jersey, we do have the Jersey Fresh logo, and there are strict requirements about where that food is grown. It has to be here in the Garden State. So that is a good indicator, especially here in the summertime, that a grower has undergone that. But not all New Jersey growers will have that certification, because there is requirements behind that you have to pay for to be considered a Jersey Fresh grower. So some of them don't do that, but that doesn't mean they're not from New Jersey. So check that label and say the farm's from such and such, so you know. Now that we've heard a little bit about labeling and how our assumptions about these foods may be a little different than what we thought, let's take a look at how some foods we eat may be portrayed as healthy, but really might not be as perfect of a choice as we thought. So as I mentioned early in the beginning of the presentation, my son brought this, I'm sorry, yes, Jackie, can you release poll 1? I forgot to release it in the beginning. If you guys could fill out this poll, it would be really helpful for me. So sorry. You can take the poll now while I'm talking. So as I discussed in the beginning of the program, my son had said to me, he works at a local eatery in the summer, he's a college student. And he said, you know, Mom, I've noticed that a lot of people anymore get wraps instead of sandwiches. And is that because it's better for us? Is it more healthy for us? And I thought, you know what, that's a really good point to make in a presentation. Let's take a look at it. So here we go. We're going to take a look at it. Now, of course, if I didn't do a comparison of a roll, like if you're getting a hoagie or something like that, but this is the comparison between a wrap versus bread. And in this comparison, the nutrition facts label and ingredients list is from a whole wheat slice of bread, which is there on the left. And then on the right, you'll see the nutritional values for a wrap, so a tortilla shell. So if you go back to this last picture, like a sandwich like this, okay? So we're doing left side, whole wheat bread, one slice, right side, a wrap. The wrap is higher in calories, which we can see right away by looking here at the calorie. So the wrap has slightly more calories, 140 compared to 110. However, if you notice the serving size on both of these, the serving size for the tortilla shell is one tortilla, whereas the serving size on the piece on the bread is only one slice of bread. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're having a sandwich with 2 slices of bread, you're going to have to double this food label. So again, just doing a comparison, keeping everything in mind here. Then we have total fat. So the total fat for the whole wheat bread is 2 grams of excuse me, of fat. And then you look over on the tortilla shell and it has 3 grams. Differences being here is there's saturated fat in the tortilla shell versus polyunsaturated fats in the whole wheat bread. So remember, if you've ever attended any of my other talks, there is one on the recordings on our website that talks a little bit about fats. And we want to try to stick with the unsaturated fats over the saturated fats for better health. So that is another comparison with these 2 labels. And then let's look at the sodium. So the sodium here for the slice of bread is 160 milligrams. And if you look at the sodium here, we're up to 410 on this whole wheat wrap. So I'm sorry, on this tortilla wrap. So right there, that's a big difference with the sodium. And if you're somebody that has been told by your doctor to watch your sodium levels, then you look at this and you say, oh, I'm eating a wrap. I'm doing something that's a little bit healthier for myself. Maybe you're considering, but this is 410 milligrams of sodium, and we're only supposed to have 2,300 milligrams a day. So if you're eating 410 on just the wrap, and then, you know, you're adding like say chicken or lunch meat, or, you know, who doesn't have a wrap with buffalo chick sauce, right? So the buffalo sauce, right? That's a lot of sodium too. So you want to make sure that you're looking at things like the sodium when you do a comparison on something that, you know, am I really eating something that's healthier? So this is a glaring area for me in the difference between a piece of whole wheat bread and then the tortilla wrap. Total carbohydrates, I think that people also try to save carbohydrates by eating the wrap. There's 24 carbohydrates in the wrap and there's 21 in the slice of bread. So again, might not be getting everything that you think you're getting from that. Dietary fiber, again, another thing that I talk a lot about in my presentations, mainly because we as Americans don't get enough of it and we need more of it in our diets to help our bodies function better. There's 3 grams from that whole wheat bread versus the 1 gram, which isn't a significant difference, but you know, it's still a difference in the wrap. And then total sugars, there's 3 grams, and again, 2 grams. And this is a good thing. This has 3 grams of added sugar, whereas the wrap only has 1 gram. And that's another area. You might think there'd be less sugar, but you know, it's whole wheat bread. So they're probably trying to make it taste a little bit more appetizing by adding that sugar in there. So something that might sneak up on you. The whole wheat flour is an ingredient in the whole wheat bread. And that's a good thing because then we're getting some of that serving of whole grain that we're supposed to have in our day. Whereas over here on the other side, we have the enriched bleached flour, which is not a whole grain. So it won't count towards that half your grains whole grain every day that you hear us talk about when we talk about My Plate. So that's just a quick comparison to give you an idea of what you might be eating that you think is healthier, and maybe it's not as healthy as you thought. But if it's something you enjoy, you know, there's not a big difference except for really be careful if you're somebody with hypertension or somebody that should be watching the amount of sodium that they're taking in. This is another comparison that I wanted to do really quick, just looking at the box, and there's another package. The box itself says whole grains, more than half of the daily recommendations, 9 vitamins and minerals, good source of fiber, no artificial flavors, colors from additives, sweetened multi-grain cereal with whole oats. And it really appears at first glance that this option, especially if you're trying to add whole grains and fiber to your day, is a good option. However, there is almost 4 teaspoons of sugar in each 3/4 cup of this product. And many people are not eating 3/4 of a cup. Remember where I said earlier, you need to have extra, add extra from the label if you're eating extra. So if you're eating more than 3/4 of a cup, then you're going to have to add that extra amount of sugar that you might be getting there. So where they're saying that it's very healthy, and there are some very healthy aspects to this, look a little deeper to find out what that sugar content might be. So, that 15 grams is equal to 4 teaspoons of sugar. Ingredients labels for other types of sugar that may not say sugar, things to look for when you're looking at the nutrition facts label, things like added sugar amounts, how much added sugar is on that nutrition facts label. Ingredient labels for other types of sugar that might be in there, things like that say honey or syrup that you might not be realizing are in there. And then look at the ingredients label for where the location of sugar is in the list of ingredients. If it's in the top 4, then that product has a lot of sugar in it. The other thing that you need to look for is, in addition to that front of the packaging, is there anything that ends in OSE and OS, right? So fructose, it's sugar. Anything that ends in OS is sugar. So if you're looking to have an idea of what that product contains other than what you're seeing on the front of the label, where it's whole grains and things, and it does have, it does have the whole grains in there. So if that's what you're looking for, but you just want to be aware that it has that extra sugar in there too. So be cautious when you're looking at those buzzwords or those advertising words, because let's face facts, nobody's going to put on the front of a label, at least I've never seen it. They're not going to say it has whole grains and a whole lot of sugar. They're not going to say that. They're trying to attract you to the package so that they get you to purchase it and you get what you think you're getting, even though it might not always be what you think you're getting. All right, now that we've talked about the buzzwords and how it's marketed, and maybe it's not all what you think it is, let's look at how to really get better options or make substitutions for things that are tasty and better for us at the same time. So I'm not going to just leave you hanging on, don't eat that. Let's look at ways to make it better, okay? So recommendations for daily allowance of sodium, as I mentioned, was 2,300 milligrams. And that doesn't take a long time to add up if we're eating packaged foods. And the CDC actually estimates that the average American is getting 3,400 milligrams a day. So that's significantly larger than what we're supposed to be getting. And that contributes to the fact that, there's a lot of people with high blood pressure and, hypertension related disease. So to know how many milligrams are in a product, look at the food label, but also think about not adding salt when you're cooking, or not adding salt to your dish until you taste it. If you're making a salt or something, try leaving the salt out and then find out, take a little taste of it and add it later. So you're not dumping a lot in. So it's always fine to leave that salt out and then add it to taste, which is probably a healthier way to do it, unless you're dumping a lot in there. So you want to be cautious of that. I will say that a good way to avoid adding extra salt to your dish is using something to make it, to replace it, like an Italian spice, like a basil or oregano or parsley, something like that. Put those in dishes without adding the sodium, and they're going to give you extra flavor, and that's going to be, delightful to your palate. So you're going to enjoy that. So before add the salt, try adding, a spice to something that you're cooking or an herb. Rosemary and thyme are also wonderful additions to vegetable dishes like turnips, carrots, and even red sauces. They're good to put in there. I did want to show you too, that if you are doing a conversion between a fresh or a dry herb, the conversions are as follow. 1 tablespoon of finely cut herbs is the same as 1 teaspoon of crumbled dry herbs, or 1 to 1/2 teaspoon of ground dried herbs. So if you're using a, the conversion, like if it calls for, if you're using a recipe that calls for something fresh and you don't have it on hand, you can use this conversion with something dried. Also, it's really important that while you're using them, that's great. But if you're going to use other types of salt substitute, like maybe, an Italian, that you buy one that says Italian herb or something on it, check and see how much sodium is being added to that, or look at that ingredients list, because they might throw some salt in there. So you think, again, you're doing something good by using herbs, but if it's like a combination one, it could have more salt than you think. Another way to do something that is beneficial is use plant-based oils like olive oil, canola, peanut oil, sesame oils to cook with, because they are unsaturated fats, which I said earlier were the good fats, the healthy fats that we want our bodies to have. And these oils are great bases to cook with, and they're also really good bases to make homemade salad dressings with, things like that. So think about using that, because if you're making a homemade salad dressing, I know it can be a big ask when you're short on time, but if you use those fresh herbs and the homemade salad dressing with one of these healthy oils, it's a really good way to get around some of that sugar and salt that you might find in some things. If you're a baker, when baking recipes call for chocolate, you can substitute 3 tablespoons of cocoa for every 1 ounce of chocolate that a recipe may call for, and that's going to help you to be a little bit healthier. When you're baking cakes and muffins, you can also substitute the oil in the recipe for applesauce. And applesauce gives us a nice moist texture to cakes without all that fat from the oil. And if you do decide to choose applesauce for an oil substitute, then the ratio is typically 1 to 1. So if the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup of oil, then simply use a 1/4 cup of applesauce. And again, it works great with muffins or cakes. Jackie, if you want to go ahead and release that second poll, you can. Jackie's going to release the second poll while I keep talking. Another substitute is you can substitute canned evaporated milk in recipes that call for cream. And that's an easy way to make your baking a little healthier. It's lower in calories and more nourishing. And you can also substitute low fat or fat-free milk in cream sauce recipes. Just be aware if you're doing that. I do that a lot, but sometimes if you're doing fat-free milk in like a cream sauce with over pasta or something like that, you need to put a little flour to make it a little thicker, or you might need to put a little cornstarch in there to make that a little thicker as well. Also, oops, there we go. You can use low-fat cheese or cheese logs as side dishes. If you're doing the appetizers, so try using the low-fat version. And using low-fat cheese in side dishes can cut up to 36 grams of fat and 320 calories for every ounce. So that might be something worth looking for if you're looking to substitute that way. Just be mindful of the salt content too there. You can also make dips and appetizers and side dishes using a blend of Greek yogurt and fat-free sour cream. And this cuts over 1,000 calories and 132 grams of fat per cup of mayonnaise. So another big way to save. Try using low sodium chicken broth instead of butter in gravies or sauces. And you can even substitute broth or stock for butter in mashed potatoes. And that not only makes them lower in fat, but it also makes them dairy-free or vegan if you are interested in trying that. Just make sure when you're using the broth or the sodium, the broth or the stock, that it's low sodium, because you don't want to, add more salt to your diet that way. Steamed or roasted vegetables add a lot of nutrients and they're low in calories. So it's a great way to fill up your plate and your belly. Try adding these vegetables to make half your plate fruits and vegetables every day. And they give us the nutrients we need, and they're whole food. Just make sure not to add a bunch of butter and salt to them. But, again, spice them up with some rosemary or some thyme or some basil, things like that, to give them a little bit more flavor. So adding those fruits and vegetables are always a good way to get extra nutrients. You see what you get. You get a carrot, there's a carrot, that's it. So you don't need all that extra packaging and labeling to worry about. Here again, if you'd like to scan in and do the evaluation for us, it would be very, very much appreciated. So you can just take out your phone, open your camera and scan that QR code and do the eval. You'll be entered to win a prize. by doing so, and I greatly appreciate it. Just make sure to put your email in there if you want to be entered to win the prize. Saying yes will not, if you write yes, I want to be entered to win a prize, somebody did that last time, it's not going to enter you because I won't have your email because it doesn't associate. It's totally anonymous. Okay, and finally, just to wrap up, so I get you done in time as I promised, I mentioned before, you know, and I'll say it again, I say it all the time, being an informed shopper or an informed eater is a good way to know what you're putting in your body. So marketing food is really how retailers and suppliers pique your interest to find out, you know, how they can get you to eat and guide you in the way they want to guide you to buy their product. But knowing what labels mean, as we discussed today, and making sure you're choosing foods based on what our body needs is really going to help you get the upper hand on health choices. So please take a little bit of time to figure those out. As I've said before, I'm going to do this presentation. I think I'm doing it later in the summer. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into some of those buzzwords and other information. So if you're interested in getting more about this presentation, then please join us. You'll see it on our webpage when we're going to have it. This is all my contact information. And like I said, everything's posted on our webpage and our Facebook pages. So you're welcome to check everything out there that you need.